The observation deck of the Xenobiology Research Station hummed with its usual symphony of alien calls and chirps, but Rhea Solon had learned to distinguish each voice in the chorus. She'd been the primary caretaker for the Kethrin predator cubs for 8 months now, ever since their transport ship had crash-landed on the nearby moon and left 6 orphaned younglings in desperate need of care. Most species in the Galactic Council had refused to take them. Kethrins were apex predators from a death world, massive feline-like creatures with obsidian claws, bioluminescent markings that pulsed with their moods, and jaws powerful enough to crush starship hull plating. Their cubs, while smaller, were already formidable enough to make most aliens nervous. But Rhea had volunteered immediately. Humans, after all, had a peculiar reputation in the galaxy. They were the species that had domesticated wolves into dogs, that kept scaled reptiles as pets, that cooed over creatures with venomous fangs. The galaxy called it madness. Humans called it Tuesday. This particular Tuesday morning, however, Rhea had a problem. Her boots were missing. She stood in the middle of the habitat enclosure in her socks, hands on her hips, surveying the space with narrowed eyes. The cubs' play area was a carefully constructed environment that mimicked their homeworld. Artificial boulders for climbing, dense synthetic vegetation for stalking practice, and plenty of hiding spots for 6 curious predators who each weighed about as much as a full-grown human. "All right," Rhea announced to the seemingly empty habitat. "Which one of you fuzzy little thieves took my boots?" Silence, but not the innocent kind. It was the silence of someone or 6 someones holding their breath and trying very hard not to giggle. Rhea's lips twitched, but she suppressed the smile. She'd learned early on that Kethrin cubs, like Earth's own predatory young, learned through play. They tested boundaries, practiced hunting techniques, and yes, occasionally pulled pranks. The fact that they'd graduated from hiding her data pad to stealing her footwear meant they were getting bolder. And smarter. "I'm going to count to 10, she said, dropping her voice to what she privately called her stern human tone. "And if my boots don't magically reappear, there will be no treats after training today." A small chirp of distress echoed from behind the largest boulder. Rhea's heart melted a little, but she held firm. 10, 9, 8. A flicker of movement caught her eye. Tor, the ringleader of the cubs and by far the cleverest, poked his head out from beneath a synthetic fern. His bioluminescent stripes, currently a guilty shade of orange, pulsed rapidly. His large golden eyes blinked at her with an expression that seemed to say, "Who? Me? 7, 6. Tor ducked back into hiding. Rhea heard whispered chittering, the cubs' way of communicating when they thought she couldn't hear. She'd learned enough of their language to know they were arguing about what to do. 5, 4. More movement. This time from the climbing structure. A smaller cub, Zima, emerged with something brown clutched in her jaws. Rhea's left boot. 3, 2. Zima crept forward, her belly low to the ground in a perfect stalking posture that would one day make her a magnificent hunter. She deposited the boot at Rhea's feet, then immediately scampered backward, her stripes flashing between embarrassed purple and anxious yellow. "Good girl, Zima," Rhea said, her voice softening slightly. She picked up the boot, examining it. A few tooth marks, but nothing serious. But that's only one boot. I need 2 boots to walk properly. Where's the other one? The chittering grew louder. Rhea could practically feel the tension in the air as the cubs debated their next move. Kethrins were pack hunters by nature, and even at this young age, they operated with surprising coordination. 1. A small parade emerged from various hiding spots. First came Rax and Kessa, working together to drag the right boot between them. It was almost comical. The boot was nearly as large as they were, and they kept tripping over it. Behind them came Nyx and Yarrow, the youngest of the cubs, their stripes flashing bright white with anxiety. They deposited the boot next to its mate. Then all 5 cubs sat in a perfect line, their heads bowed in a pose that Rhea had learned meant submission or apology in Kethrin body language. "Well," Rhea said, crossing her arms, "that's better. But I'm still missing something, aren't I?" The cubs looked at each other, confused. Their translator collars, provided by the station to help them learn Galactic Common, chirped with uncertainty. "Where?" Rhea asked, letting her voice drop to a low, dangerous register that made even her feel a bit predatory. "Is Tor?" As if summoned, the largest of the cubs emerged from the shadows. Unlike his siblings, Tor wasn't carrying anything. He walked straight up to Rhea, his movements deliberate and almost contrite. When he reached her, he did something that made Rhea's breath catch in her throat. He pressed his massive head against her stomach and nuzzled her gently, a deep, rumbling purr vibrating through his chest. His bioluminescent stripes had turned a soft, apologetic blue. In Kethran culture, as Rhea had learned, this gesture was reserved for pack leaders and family. It was a sign of trust, affection, and genuine regret. "Oh, you clever little monster," Rhea whispered, unable to maintain her stern facade any longer. She ran her hands through the thick fur behind Tor's ears, scratching the spot she knew he loved. "You planned this whole thing, didn't you? Got everyone else involved in your little prank?" Tor's purr intensified. The other cubs, seeing that they weren't in serious trouble, rushed forward as well, creating a pile of warm, furry bodies around Rhea's legs. She laughed, a sound that echoed through the habitat like music. This was why humans had been the only species willing to take on these dangerous cubs. Because humans understood something that most of the galaxy didn't. Predators weren't just efficient killing machines. They were intelligent, emotional, social creatures capable of play, mischief, and yes, even love. As Rhea sat down in the middle of her adopted pack, boots temporarily forgotten, she thought about the reports she'd been sending back to the Galactic Council. Every week they asked the same questions. Were the cubs controllable? Were they showing signs of aggression? Would they need to be relocated to a maximum security facility? And every week Rhea sent the same response. The cubs were thriving. They were learning. They were bonding. They were family. "All right, you bunch of troublemakers," she said, gently extricating herself from the cuddle pile. "Training time. And because you brought my boots back, even if it took a little persuasion, you've all earned extra treats today." The cubs erupted in excited chirps and trills, their stripes flashing brilliant shades of happy green and gold. Tor stayed close to her side as she finally pulled on her boots, his tail swishing contentedly. As Rhea led her pack toward the training area, she couldn't help but smile. The galaxy might never fully understand humanity's peculiar affinity for befriending apex predators, but that was fine with her. After all, the best families were the ones you chose, even if they occasionally stole your boots.